Hey there. Yes, you. Stop what you're doing and come over here. Come closer. I won't bite. Unless you want me to. I want to know what turns you on. Let's talk about sex.
And welcome everyone to Beyond the Trailer Park episode 2. And good to see everybody. And tonight we are talking about sex and just about anything you can think of to do with sex. So, joining us this evening, we have, of course, the fun and fabulous Dave Foda.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. And, of course, our great friend Dune.
Hit the close button.
Howdy, howdy.
And our new friend Rosemary. Hello.
Hi.
Good to see you. And, yes, and joining me in the studio is a new face going by No One Knows I'm a Whore.
No one at all.
Nope, they don't. All right, folks, so... first of all, Dave, would you mind introducing Rosemary for us? She's a friend of yours.
I'll be glad to. Rosemary is one of my fellow cohorts at the Atheist Survival Guide. She is a retired clinical counseling and neuropsychologist, born in Australia, spent time living in Indonesia, and is currently living in the San Francisco Bay Area. She is one of the smartest people I know, and I tend to rely on her when I have some of those really, really deep mental questions. Thank you for being here, Rosemary.
Yes, thank you very much. Awesome. All right, folks. Well, let's dive in. So, first thing, Dave and I were talking about this last night, and I apologize, ladies, that you haven't had a chance to read this in advance, but we were looking at an article that talked about the difference between desire and arousal. And I just kind of skimmed over it, and I thought it looked interesting, but Dave had a few issues with that.
Well, my biggest problem with it, and I'm going to try and see if I can pull up this article, because I had actually posted it on my page as well.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem that I had with it is that the conclusion that the author was trying to reach may be a valid conclusion, but he or she didn't, the information that was present in the article would not lead to that conclusion.
Okay.
And the other big thing is the author wanted to somehow separate the physical arousal from the mental desire to have sex.
Right.
You know, and that goes back to Descartes' dualism.
Right. So that was
which
something
is absolutely ridiculous to me. So.
Well, that was something, as I said, I'm not familiar with because I unfortunately never had the chance to study Descartes. So that kind of went over my head. What I read was there are times where you might feel aroused, but you don't actually want to have sex. And then there may be times that you really feel like you want to have sex, but the body's not cooperating and you're not aroused. So that made sense to me, but again, I don't have the background that you do.
Well, I get what the author is saying there. About there are sometimes when I want to be horny, but I don't want to do anything about it.
Right.
So I totally get that. But the author was confusing. Some things in there. If I want to be horny, but I don't want to have sex, that doesn't denote a form of dualism. That just means I'm preferring. Means that I prefer one feeling to another. But there's no dualism there. It's still monism.
Okay.
Rosemary, do you think you could speak to that? Do you think I'm off base with with my take on it.
Makes sense. The two feelings are different. The two states are different. You can certainly feel that you want to have sex, but the desire is there, but you don't necessarily want to do anything about it. Yeah, I don't see that as being two different. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so we're really not talking about any sense of dualism.
Okay.
In that. Basically, you can desire to be aroused, or you may have a desire to be aroused, or you may have a desire to have sex.
Yeah.
And you have both, or you can have neither.
We're losing you there.
So,
you're.
but
yeah.
we're still in this where there's any kind of mind-body dualism there.
Okay. So I was hard to get you there. You were sort of phasing in and out a little bit.
Sorry, how much did you catch?
About half.
Okay, well, basically what I was saying was that you may have a desire to be aroused or a desire to have sex.
Right.
You don't have to have both at the same time, but you can. But
Right.
you're still talking about a preference for one physical sensation over another.
Right.
But that in no way indicates mind-body dualism.
Okay.
It's still monism. And the author of the article wanted to try and make one about the mind and one about the body.
Okay.
And that's why I say that the conclusion that they wanted to reach, that there's a difference between arousal and the desire to have sex, is a valid conclusion, but you can't get there from where the author was starting. That was my problem with the article.
Okay.
Not that the conclusion was false.
Right.
They just poorly worded it and didn't think it out.
Gotcha. Because where I can see it's something that we would relate to more so is where religion comes in, where you get people that are very aroused, they really want to have sex in some ways, but religion tells them they're not supposed to, and you get that sort of cognitive dissonance hitting you right in the face, basically.
That's actually a very interesting point, and I know that Beth can speak to this too. Christian apologist Josh McDowell. He's sometimes called America's dad, right? And I have seen him at one of the national conferences on Christian apologetics. I saw him give a speech on the greatest threat to Christianity today. And he said that it was online porn.
Yeah.
And what was really funny to me was the fact that in his very poorly done research, the information that he uncovered was that the greatest number of consumers of online porn also happen to be in the most religious states in the United States.
Utah.
Yes.
Utah.
Yes. Yes, and they're not even allowed to masturbate, Mormons, as Cash has told us. Yeah. So that's pretty...
Well,
Go ahead.
I mean, coming from the religious aspect, it's just like, I'm not specifically thinking of our pediddling little priests that are in the news quite often, but I do know, I mean, I have some in my family where they have so suppressed their sexuality as a whole that they basically, it's almost like religion has become their porn. If that makes any sense. And it's just like, I mean, which was part of the hard part of going home this past week, but it for me, like we were talking before the show, to get caught up a little bit, it's just like, in some senses, I'm very Victorian on my views, but then there's the whole other side of me that is, let's just say, I can be a bit freakish. And it's just like, I find myself sometimes balancing that, and it's just like, it gets a little mind-boggling sometimes. I just go with the flow. So.
Would you say the Victorian side comes from the religious upbringing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Rosemary, Beth, you just brought up a really interesting point. Is it something like that? Is there some sort of a neurological explanation for something like that, where you suppress one thing about yourself and then something else becomes kind of a proxy for the thing you suppress?
I think of it like a balloon. If you blow up a balloon, you've got pressure in the balloon. If you sit on the balloon somewhere, the pressure is just going to go somewhere else. And that is the problem. If you're sitting on the balloon in a religious sense, then you've suppressed it in one area, and it's going to pop up somewhere else. And if that is also something that is supposedly suppressed by your religion, then you have another problem. It's got to come out somehow, and if there is no release allowed anywhere in your religion, then it's going to come out in some other method, and you're going to end up as a patient of one of my colleagues.
Yes. Or
I know the inside of
more money for us, but that's not exactly the point.
Or you end up in a scandal in the Vatican, let's say.
Well, what's funny for me is being that Dave and Deb both know that I come from a very fundamentalist religious background, but on top of it, growing up, I've known since age 5 that I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I mean, obviously I didn't know back then what gay meant or being a lesbian meant. It wasn't until I was almost 18 that I actually had a word for it, and that was all because of my upbringing. It was not something talked about.
Yeah.
And so I had that I like girls, I don't like boys, and then on top of it I had the Victorian attitude. I mean, that's the simplistic way of putting it, attitude towards sex in general. So it's just like, yeah, and when it finally let loose, so to speak, it was kind of like, oh, cool.
Awesome. So
easy way.
Part of growing up is part of learning how to deal with the social mores and how to get along with others, which involves some ability to not do exactly what you want to do all the time. But one of the other problems is that you also can't deny everything. So you have to learn some way of fulfilling the needs that you do have in ways that are socially acceptable. And where you run into problems is when there is your religion or your society allows no way of doing that. Then
there's a question. There's a question in our chat that I think relates to what you're saying, Rosemary, and you might be able to address this more specifically than any of us can. It goes, do you think that repression of sexuality by religion leads directly to abuse?
That's a bit wide. It can. Well, it can. It depends on the circumstances. It can. Anything. That's too wide a question.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So.
Yeah. It can certainly contribute, but there's so much more to it than that, I think.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to what Beth was saying about people thinking of their religion as porn, and our good friend Shujin. Hi, Shujin. he had a nice statement too. Is ironically that there are rather pornographic passages in the Bible. If they'd only just read it, I mean, horses, come on. And that happens to be one of my favorite verses too, about the emissions of horses. Ezekiel, what was that, 2023, I believe?
I think
Yeah,
so,
you're telling on yourself.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the Song of Solomon, pretty much
yes.
that whole book. Then you got the book of Ruth and Esther. I can't remember which one. I know it's one of them. Is pretty pornographic in and of itself too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not. I mean, porn is nothing new.
No.
I mean, we can take it even back further. Some scholars believe the figurines like the Venus of Willendorf. They think that was actually handheld porn.
Handheld porn. Now that's a novel idea.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen a set. It's only hand size. It'll fit, well, probably bigger than my hand, but they believed that it was actually held, and because it was so voluptuous and certain aspects were more defined than others, some are thinking that maybe, you know, I mean, you're talking 250,000 BC.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's not like porn is anything new.
This is true. Go ahead.
Oh, the plus side, as far as Christianity is concerned, I suppose it's the amount of porn in some sections of the Bible is a good thing to make teenagers read the Bible. At least that section of it.
This is true.
Nice. Well, that's not why I read it, but...
Well, when I was a teenager being made to go to Bible study, they never mentioned those verses for some reason.
For some reason they never turn up in the readings in the church services, no.
No, especially the Ezekiel verse. That one I only learned about very recently, actually.
Oh no, those are well known behind the shelter sheds of the girls' school I was at.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. Yeah, it's amazing that, you know, I used to work in the antique field many years ago, and I have seen lithographs from the 17th and 18th century that would, you know, make your toes curl. And I even, at one point, we had in a set of little Japanese figurines that were made out of sterling silver, and they were little couples, and you fit them together on the penis and the vagina. And, yeah, I had fun polishing those. I mean, and those suckers were at least 200 years old. And, yeah, they were, yeah, they had some creative positions.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know whatever happened to those. I think we sold them. They were out of my price range. I think they were like $2,000, and I was like 25, so there's no way I was spending that on, you know, naughty figurines.
Well, interestingly enough, you know, I've never come across a parson or a pastor who's tried to give religious education, sex education to kids using Bible passages.
He'd have a hard time explaining Ezekiel, I think.
Now that would be an interesting challenge to put up. Maybe I should try that next time I'm home.
There you go. Hey. It's like, hey, any of you Christian folks, do you have an explanation for Ezekiel here? Because I want to know.
Yeah. You know, talking about Song of Solomon, it kind of makes me wonder what kind of fetishes might have been present 3,000 years ago. And I wouldn't have been able to survive. You know, my thoughts on it are very, very, have very modern accoutrements.
Yeah.
The thing is, would they have been considered to have been fetishes back then? The thing is, what's considered to be a fetish is also a social contract as well. It goes with the culture.
What do you mean? What do you mean by social contract, Rosemary?
Sorry, wrong term. It's part of the culture. So if you're thinking back to the Jewish culture, the one that is behind the writing of the Bible, then you're looking at a very male dominant society. So your fetishes then are going to revolve around a something where women are objects. Whereas if you look at the type of what might be a fetish in a Polynesian society, for instance, you're going to get different kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So how does... That's very interesting. It's taken me a minute or two to process that. I'm wondering how it's... What I'm getting is that you're saying that it's almost that the fetish is a product of the culture. Is that right?
Partly, yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it makes sense because there are cultures where a much more voluptuous figure and larger figure is absolutely considered much more sexy than the sort of stick women that is favored in some Western cultures. And I've read about that before, and it really does. And like if you look at some African cultures, stretching your earlobes way out, that's hot. And somebody like us walking around with, nothing on our ears or little piercings would be kind of icky to those people, perhaps.
Yeah, but
well, I think that women
sure.
my age should get into the Greeks, the ancient Greek society where big voluptuous women are considered to be nice.
but are those, do those really qualify as fetishes? Because when I think of a fetish, I think of an addition to, or not an addition, but what's the word I'm looking for?
It's more focal.
Something that goes along in tandem with. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess it could.
Mm-hmm.
Because excuse me, I'm a leg man, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you could say that a fetish for me would be a woman in a short skirt and high heels. That's what I love seeing. Mm-hmm. So I suppose that the dangly things in African women's earlobes could be kind of, the men could see those the same way I see high heels and a short skirt.
Yeah, they could.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Well, I think
there's two sorts of fetish. Excuse me. There's officially two kinds of fetishisms. Do me. One is the object, the part of the body, and the other one is the kind of material.
Right. Like an object versus a body part or physical aspect.
One is the sort of feel of, say, satin or leather or something or other. So it's a feel rather than an object.
Right.
And the other one is an object, usually a part of the body, that rather than the whole body. So we may be confusing a fetish with a personal preference for a body type.
Right, which is you're talking about somebody who, as again the cliche one, but a foot fetish versus somebody who likes tall women.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or fat Greek women, or just fat women in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just reminded of something while y'all were talking. I had spoken with the IT policy girl earlier, and she knew that I was going to be doing this tonight, and she had mentioned, excuse me, she had mentioned something to me She used to work with a woman whose husband had a deep-seated need to be kicked in the nuts.
Whoa.
And
dear.
but she had to be wearing high heels when she did it.
Wow. So they weren't looking for many children then.
Well,
I don't know, did it necessarily upset that?
Forget the vasectomy.
and then just recently I found out that another friend knows someone with that same fetish. I don't
Wow.
get that.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's not like it's a one-off thing. I mean, there's more than one person in the world that likes this.
Well, there is a relationship between pain and sexual arousal.
I was just gonna say, I bet you that's a pain thing, pain plus dominance. I bet. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Little off the cut, bizarre, but hey, whatever you like.
Well, there's a difference.
You faded out there.
Just don't kick me in the nuts, all right? That is hardcore pain.
Yeah.
Right? If you kick me in the nuts, that's it. Not only are we not going to have sex, I will probably have nothing more to do with you.
Well, he did ask, so it's a little different.
Yeah, but there's a difference between, now I love having my back scratched by long fingernails, and that does present some pain every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But it's surface pain. Getting kicked in the nut, that is deep, deep pain.
There are people that really go for the intense, hardcore pain.
Do you think, though, with something like that it's more of a... Some people believe that you can't have pleasure without pain. And I'm not talking in a sadomasochistic way. I'm just thinking that almost in a sense of self-punishment. Not self-injury, but self-punishment. That you have to have the pain before you can have the pleasure.
That's an interesting
And if you think about it, if you go back to Genesis, where, well, especially with women, they talk, after the fall, there'd be pain in childbirth specifically for the women, but it seems that kind of the men get off scot-free. No offense, Dave. But in a way, I wonder if somewhere deep-seated in our psyche, it's kind of like of a guilt thing. For, it'd be interesting to know what this person who likes to get kicked in the balls, what their religious upbringing was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
especially if it was Catholicism.
Yeah.
Part of the job that I had when I was working as a psychotherapist was figuring out all of this stuff. The answer's not all that's always simple. So there was often a number of different causes, so there might be partly something like that, or part of it may be that they just simply needed to feel some pain that had got out of control. You could have, it can be partly learned, that can get out of control as well. Once you discover that pain assists you to get aroused, you can then, the behavior becomes learned, and then you build on that, and then you learn the wrong lesson from it, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a cutter, so yeah, it just kind of interests me, being that I haven't in years, but I used to cut, and part of it was self-punishment, because that's, growing up, the only time my dad really got pissed off at me, he used to smack me around a bit. They called it corporal punishment back then. Now it's considered child abuse.
Bad time. It certainly was.
But So, I mean, for me, I associated that pain, that punishment with pleasure, not in a sexual way, but I'm just wondering if that dynamic would be the same for this, for the
it can be
the guy that
and it can be you can get all your messages all muddled up, as it sounds like it happened with you.
And you could go ahead.
Speaking of muddled messages, I want to switch gears here for just a second. And I will admit that I'm trying my best to keep an eye on the questions in the in the Q&A. But there was something that goes along with muddled messages. Talking Wallflower asks, do any of you know the justification for anal sex not being equivalent to losing your virginity, even though anal sex between men is a sin punishable by death? And that's actually a two-pronged answer. When we're talking about a woman losing her virginity, that deals specifically with the hymen, right?
Yeah.
For men, not so much. So it kind of gets a little weirder there. The problem there is with onanism. You know, Onan in the Bible pulled out and spilled his seed on the ground. And this is something that we were talking about last Monday night on Atheists on Air.
That's right.
Excuse me. God doesn't like for anyone to spill their seed anywhere but in a place where procreation can happen. So that means no pulling out, no doing it in the Kleenex, no doing it in the butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're getting what you're getting back to there is the Semitic idea that the male was the one that had the seed and the female didn't. The female was just the incubator, and so the male was responsible for the babies and producing the babies, and so you didn't want to waste any of that. And their version of God was that God said, okay, you go along and you create more babies. So the only person, as far as that culture was concerned, that had anything to do with it was the male. Female had nothing to do with it, and so if you put semen up the back passage, then that's not going to create a baby because it doesn't grow there. So it doesn't have the same the same problem for that particular culture as it would. If the culture is concerned with passing on the line, which is what it was, the idea was that you go and make more babies so that you can be looked after in your old age, and you've got people to help you with your harvest and planting and what have you. So this is an agrarian, primitive society. So it ran on having lots of kids, and of course half of them died off. More than half of them died off because of disease and all sorts of other things that went on as well. So that was the important thing, is making the babies. So that was where that came in, I think. So that was why it wasn't seen to be terribly important for. It's not as important if you if you're pushing your penis into somebody's back passage rather than the vagina. I mean, we know differently these days.
I'm just laughing about your phrasing.
I have funny phrasing.
Is that like playing the back nine?
I have Spotify.
I don't know how to speak differently here. You have different languages.
Hey, I have Spotify on right now.
You speak the same language, but you don't, you know.
Well, and it's even worse, Rosemary, because we're in Canada over here, so we can.
Oh my goodness.
We confuse these Americans over here.
Hey, I have Spotify on right now.
Yeah.
And I normally listen to the Piano Guys. Mm-hmm. And right now, the song that's playing is "O Come, Emmanuel."
I'll never listen to that again.
Excellent, excellent.
I love the piano, guys. They're fun.
That's awesome. So,
As a pianist,
so that kind of answers the why. Why is it? They don't want you to do it. But then, why is that sort of not considered losing virginity if you're a guy? I guess.
because you're not passing your seed. You're not passing your seed on.
Technically, yeah.
You're not impregnating a woman to make her make a baby.
And I guess the whole punishable by death is, well, you're not making a baby either, and on top
which is bad.
And on top, what's that?
That's any sin.
That's any sin, yes.
Any sin is punishable by death.
Yes, pretty much. Well, then we know every sperm is sacred, right?
All of mine are.
What do you
we can sing this song now.
I'm the token guy on the panel tonight.
This is true.
Oh, so you are, Dave. Ooh.
Yes, he is.
We can gang up on you. Oh, good.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit about the pain thing, too, and that kind of brings us into the next sort of area I was thinking about talking about is the idea of fetishes and something called paraphilia. So for anybody who has not heard of that, because it's a bit of a mouthful, but a paraphilia is sort of, it's related to a fetish, but
it's a mouthful.
Thanks, Dave.
Very funny.
Trying to be all intellectual here. But it's the sort of negative side of a fetish where the focal activity or object can cause harm to the person who desires it or other people. And I think that's sort of evolved over time. I mentioned on last week's AOA, when I was in university, I did a paper on paraphilia, and if I was to look at that paper now, I would think I was an idiot, because a lot of the things that I talked about in terms of paraphilia, I wouldn't think is all that abnormal anymore. Case in point, I think I listed BDSM as being a, quote, paraphilia, which it really isn't. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between the two of fetishes and paraphilias. Do you guys have any notions or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Wikipedia here. No consensus has been found for any precise border between unusual personal sexual tastes and paraphilia ones. There you go, as you said.
Well, and I think even my paper, I think I did mention a shoe fetish. But what's interesting is my way of understanding it, you could have a fetish that can cross the line into paraphilia. So, for instance, if somebody did have a shoe fetish or a foot fetish, if they had willing partners who said, yeah, go ahead, lick my feet or lick my boots or whatever, no harm, no foul. But and I've read stories about people doing this where the person, say, goes into a store and sneaks up on somebody and starts kissing their feet. Like, that's going to freak somebody out. So it can cross that line.
There's
But in that case, you're talking about consent, though, because the person who's having their feet kissed is not necessarily consenting.
That's right.
Psychologists have lots of discussions about this kind of thing, and there's all sorts of papers and stuff written about it. You know, when do you decide to treat someone and when do you not? And the usual cut-off point is when it's causing the person that you've got in front of you harm, or it's causing society harm. And what you call harm, significant harm, I think is the word they use. So what you call significant harm then has, where do you draw the line, is a little hazy as well.
Okay,
but you get the idea. So it's got to be significant harm. So minor sorts of harm is borderline.
So Wikipedia's got a list of paraphilias. I don't have it up in front of me right now, but I know that one of the things on that list is mechanophilia. And Heretic Woman and I were talking about this not long ago, and it's basically a person who has a sexual
a deep sexual fetish and perhaps a sexual preference for machinery.
Oh, never heard of that one before. You want
but I don't see how that kind of paraphilia could really harm the person or harm society.
Oh,
even
I can give you an example when it did. I know of one particular instance. We had one guy in a psychiatric hospital where I was I was working. He came in, he cut his penis off with a chainsaw. I reckon that qualifies.
Yeah.
Wait, he did it himself?
He had, just one instance of temporary psychosis, and that was it. You couldn't go back and undo it.
Yikes.
Well, there was not too long ago the rapper that cut off his ding dong.
Yeah.
And he did it. I'll see if I can. I posted the article because
I remember that.
And he did it, I think, for religious reasons.
Well, now
which is even more bizarre.
He was high at the time too, though, I believe.
Yeah, I know I blogged about it.
Because if I remember, he was high and he cut it off, and then he jumped off a 1 or 2 story roof or
building.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, no, I'm curled up in a fetal position, and I'm trying not to sob.
Yeah.
Equivalent of being.
Let's see.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I think it might have hurt.
That's got it.
Okay. Yeah, it was Andre Johnson. Come on. My poor computer's confused. I haven't been on it in a week. Yeah, Andre Johnson. He goes, the rapper who...
Sorry, go ahead, Beth.
I was going to say, this is, let's see, this was in April. He severed his penis and then leapt from the 2nd level of a building in North Hollywood. He told E! that he was under the influence of drugs at the time, but insisted that he knew what he was doing. Yes, I was using drugs that night, but I was in complete control. Obviously, you were not. I cut it off because that was the root of all my problems. My solution to the problem was the realization that sex is for mortals and I am a god. Those kinds of activities got me into trouble, and I came here to be a god.
Wow. What was that?
Sounds like Kanye West.
Kanye West, she says, yes.
Yeah, Kanye kind of wouldn't surprise me if he went that far one of these days.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Okay, now I am going to cry because somebody just brought up Kanye West.
I must know over here.
Somebody who thinks he's immortal.
Yeah, she said it's somebody who thinks he's immortal. Makes sense.
Yeah. But it goes on, he goes, I didn't want to kill myself. That was just my response to the demons, my favorite subject. They were doing their best to get to me, but being alive solidified my thoughts. I am alive, penis or no penis.
So there you go. If you have demons, cut your dick off and it'll be all good.
What if I have demons?
Yeah, and the sad part is that once you come out of that, you're then stuck with a problem that you didn't want.
Yeah.
It's fine when you're hallucinating and you believe you're a god.
Well, the thing is,
not when you come down and you're no longer.
Well, they interviewed him after the fact when he was supposedly sober, and he said he didn't regret doing it.
Well, and the sad thing is that you all remember Heaven's Gate, the cult.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
They actually castrated themselves. So
I remember that.
I'm wondering if he got mixed up because they're still active, just not as blatantly out. There's still a couple people that followed that after Applegate that still keep his thinking alive, and I'm wondering if he got mixed up in that.
I suspect we don't have all the information. I think there's a bit more to it.
Yeah.
I think if he was high, he'd be high. The I rather suspect there's more. There's not just drugs involved there. That sounds like a psychosis on top of it.
Yeah, well, if he sobers up and he still thinks it was a good idea, you gotta wonder.
I would.
Definitely.
Yeah, the case that I was talking about, the guy, there was no apparent psychosis before or after. It was out of the blue, quite weird. Happens every now and again. No apparent cause.
My psychosis was I thought I could fly.
That's the dangerous one.
Yes.
I tried to test that theory, but...
Oh, dear. Well, I'm so glad someone rescued you from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just makes me wonder why he would, I mean, that extreme. Even the gentleman you were talking about.
Yeah, chainsaw seems a little overkill. Like, I'm surprised he didn't, like, cut his leg open or something, too.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't his therapist, so I didn't get all the gory details.
Oh, gory for sure.
That's not true. I know all of you in the field talk and laugh about your patients.
Yeah, it's grave humor, Dave. It's one way of keeping sane.
I would imagine so. I mean, you gotta put it somewhere. You can't. Yeah. Wow.
It's not. I mean, there are serious issues there, and it's not funny at all.
No.
Don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you get the same kind of things in police force, fire brigade, medical people in general. It's one coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
In scratches, we don't cry. We don't laugh.
So I got that list here, and there's all kinds of stuff on there. Like here's one, oculoincus, licking of eyeballs. Okay.
How is that even remotely sexual?
I've never heard of these things.
I don't know. That's just what I can't even pronounce the damn thing. And then we have, what else do we got?
Well, they got the good ones, obviously.
Well, yeah. Well, and then there's one that Dave really kind of disagreed with, which was metrophilia, arousal from poetry.
Good grief.
Yeah, he doesn't believe that one exists.
No, I don't. It is impossible to be aroused by Edgar Allan Poe or E.E. Cummings. It just doesn't happen.
Negatively, possibly.
Oh, here we have liquidophilia, immersing your genitals in liquids. That's a thing.
Hopefully cold.
It
doesn't say, it just says liquids.
Well, theoretically, absolutely anything could be a phobia or a fixation. All it needs is a learning process, an abnormal learning process. Those happen all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how would people like me get money?
Wait, when you say abnormal learning process, what do you mean exactly?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, okay. I suppose it's a normal learning process, but it's leads to abnormal events. So you end up with something that's not positive.
Well,
okay. The reason that I asked that question is that I know that there's one person who's watching tonight who would get something from that answer. I'm not going to say who it is, but it just reminded me of something that I was told recently, and I wanted to go ahead and get that out there so she could hear that answer.
Okay. Did I get the right one?
What? Was it right? Was it right as far as your training and knowledge goes?
Listen,
well, in a way,
warn me about these things. You can't put me on the spot like this.
But then don't we get down to the nitty-gritty of defining what's abnormal? Because my normal could be your abnormal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the way I always sort of understood it was that when certain aspects of sexuality are developing, if you encounter something in a way that isn't, I don't know how you explain it, you encounter an experience that isn't meant to be sexual, but it happens in a way that it becomes equated with sexuality, and that could be this sort of abnormal learning. That makes sense?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Tend to use the word atypical when you're unsure.
Okay.
My son, for instance, has Asperger's syndrome, and a lot of the training that the parents got was to refer to this as atypical rather than abnormal development, and that makes sense. So where things cross over into, quote, abnormal, I suppose, is where you start to put value judgments on it in terms of whether it's harming things.
Right.
And when people come in for therapy or people come and complain that society is being harmed, then you start to talk about things that are abnormal. I mean, you go to see a doctor because something is abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can go and talk to them if something's atypical, but usually don't.
Right.
That's a good delineation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, you were gonna say something, Dave? No? Okay.
I was, but we've gone beyond it, and I had to clear my throat while it was going on. So please.
Okay. That's all right. Because our friend No here picked out something to formicophilia, being crawled on by bugs, is apparently. Yeah. So.
You expect me to sleep tonight?
Spell that.
Spell it.
No. Spell with a P. Spell.
Ow. I'm not sure what you mean.
No, what's the phobia for being on a show with Heretic Woman?
Is that like Canadianophobia?
When you said the name of that name of that philia, the first thing I thought about was kitchen counters.
Oh, for Micah.
That's what I got from. That's why I asked you to spell it, because it was
formicophilia.
Okay.
Formicophilia.
Okay.
I thought that was a place for having sex, isn't it? Kitchen counters.
I think
yes,
so.
It is.
Yep, definitely.
That's one of the atypical, rather than abnormal things.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I wonder, and I'll confess this in a few moments too, but mine does not have anything to do with philia. What is your least favorite and your most favorite place to have sex?
You want me to answer this honestly on air?
You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm going to answer it.
Bed is the least favorite, elevators the most, but I watched too much 9.5 weeks.
I refuse to answer this on the grounds I might be incinerated.
Well, for me,
besides, I haven't got permission from my other half or anyone else involved.
For me, the shower is the least favorite.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the most favorite is either the dining room table or the garage.
Garage.
Garage?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
isn't that a little cold on the ground?
I'm down here in the South, Heretic Woman. You're the one in Canada, remember?
Yes, as I'm looking at the blizzard out my friggin' window.
Yeah.
Well, I could certainly think of places that I really wouldn't want to. Rubbish dumps and things like that. No, thank you.
That would be, yeah.
Well,
I bet,
yeah,
I
but
bet,
I was meaning of the places that you have had sex in the past.
I don't know if I had a favorite, really.
I have a least favorite. Go for it. I don't like the back seat of a car.
Yeah, well, she's kind of tall, so,
Yeah,
I mean,
I can definitely understand that. I don't like sex in cars either.
that was never a problem for me.
Not enough room, yeah. Not enough room unless you're... Actually, it reminds me of that dreadful tale of Prometheus and the bed, where they chopped off limbs to make you fit. I think you have to do that in cars to make you have sex in cars with any length of degree of comfort, and then, of course, it wouldn't be comfortable, so...
Yeah,
yes.
see, I don't have that problem.
Maybe they should make cars. Hearses, maybe, but then...
No, I fit in cars just fine.
You want to know what the best sex I ever had in a car was in a Cadillac?
Yeah?
So what can you do?
I know why I don't have that problem. Because my car was a camper van.
Yeah! There you go. Yeah, I have to say, on top of a freezer is not very comfortable.
No, I shouldn't think so.
No, not even a chest freezer.
That would be kind of the same thing as on top of a kitchen counter, though, too.
Yeah,
I mean, when you think about it.
It was a cramped ice cream parlor, though. I don't know. It wasn't.
Oh!
And the truth comes out.
Yeah, well.
I think this calls for a
See,
comment.
that was just perfect.
I don't know that I have a favorite. I don't know. There's lots of good places. Outside's good. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to mute for 1 second. I will be right back.
And what's he up to?
I have run out of lotion and Kleenex, and I need to go get more.
Hello.
Go on.
Oh, poor Dave.
I have to laugh though. I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, if my mother heard me now. It's all that's running through the back of my head.
Oh well.
I mean, if there is a heaven and she's watching, she's probably having a coronary up there.
You had a long journey.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it you've had a long journey out.
Well, my mom just died last week. I just got home, in fact, 2 hours ago. So it's just like, because growing up, I mean, talking about sex or sexuality, I won't say that it was taboo, but it was not something that we've really talked about. She handed me a book and said, here.
Yep. I got that too.
And being that I grew up in a very fundamentalist, very evangelical home, it was kind of like birds and the bees simplified. And I was telling Heretic before we came on. I said, well, I'm not sure how much I will be able to offer, because I'm totally unprepared as far as like the articles and stuff. Because as I said, I just literally rolled into town 2 hours ago, and I said, because my view, in a sense, I'm very Victorian, very, I guess, prudish, for lack of a better word, in my views. But then again, I'm not. Because it's just, it's this really wild dichotomy that I sometimes have in the back of my head, and then on top of it being gay, it's like, I do catch myself, especially at the start of a new relationship. It's like, and I catch myself all the time just going over this, because I think, what could my parents have done differently 40 years ago, 50 years ago, growing up, compared to if I was, in my teens now. And I look at my nieces and my nephews, and it's just like, in some aspects, I find the fact that they're not afraid to talk about it. I mean, I work with a lot of younger kids at my job, and it just, their attitudes towards sex and sexuality is just so, I guess, liberating, for lack of a better word. And I just find it really, really kind of weird, because I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, if my mom's listening to this, and it's just really odd.
A different generation. You would have had to learn it all on your own.
Yeah, I pretty much did, actually.
Yeah, I did too. Actually, I got the same thing. Here's a book, and I never had the kind of relationship with my mother to even bother asking that shit. I just would go, go to the library.
Yeah, exactly.
And, we didn't have internet back then. We did have encyclopedia, so and
I had read book.
Whenever we went to the doctor's office, they had like anatomy books in the doctor's office, so I would always look up, the penis and like, hey, whoa, it's a penis, yeah. And of course, what kid hasn't looked at, naked people in National Geographic at some point?
Yeah. But it's just, and I wonder sometimes, like, I look at, as far as sex in general, not so much sexuality, but sex in general, are the kids growing up today better off than I was 40 years ago?
Mm.
If they're being provided with information and resources on safe sex practices, absolutely they are.
Oh yeah, that's a whole another ball of wax when you throw in that whole mess. And that's why I find it so frustrating. A lot of my blogging deals with countering the religious right and their stupidity. Ouch! Sorry, my cat. She thinks so much. Sorry about that.
It's always the pussy that's causing the problem.
Always he makes his triumphant return.
This pussy is very confused because I haven't been home in a week.
Attack of the killer pussy.
Yeah.
What? I hope somebody fed it.
Yeah, she was well taken care of. But it just makes me wonder if nowadays, are the kids better off in a sense that sex in general, just the whole topic is more talked about. But then like we were talking earlier, where the highest digesting of porn is in the most religious of states.
Yes.
Utah and Texas and Oklahoma. Those, I think, are the top three.
It depends on what access you have to information and whether you have access to the internet and whether it's censored or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
So here's the thing about that. Shujin had asked this question earlier. He's not watching now. He had to leave, but he asked, do there seem to be different levels of sexual repression depending on the predominant religion of the area? Japan, for example, fairly unsuppressed. Now, before we tackle that, let me say one thing here. He is asking, of course, about the predominant religion rather than whether an area is heavily religious.
Right.
But at the same time, he used Japan as an example, and Japan is definitely an unrepressed society as far as sex goes.
Oh, yes.
But at the same time, they also have rape porn is big in Japan. So what his question actually opens like two Pandora's boxes here. First of all, the idea that are there different levels of sexual repression depending on the predominant religion, or depending on religion itself, and two, about those we'll call, for the sake of the discussion, we'll call them unsundry fantasies.
Dave, it's also the culture. So, Japan doesn't have a predominant religion. They have so you're talking more about the predominant culture there.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense.
So let's widen it. It's not just it's not just religion. It's the whole culture, which includes religion. If you've got one.
What I find unusual about that is they have, as you guys have probably heard of or seen, really unusual stuff. I mean, like tentacle porn, like You know, you can buy used panties in a vending machine, but a lot of Japanese porn actually obscure the genitals.
Censored.
Yeah, it tends to be censored, which I've always found to be very odd, because you're tentacles. I mean, come on, and you don't want us to see, you know, a vagina. Like, what's with that?
You know what I was told by your nephew, in
Yes.
fact, that one of the reasons, and it could be wrong, but one of the reasons why the tentacle things and everything like that ended up becoming so popular in Japan was because they were censoring it. They did have to blur it out if you had a human body part entering another human body part. Well, tentacles, it's not a human body part. They don't have to censor it. There you go.
And it's phallic. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, but I've even seen tentacle porn that's censored.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what corners of the internet are you creeping around?
What?
I don't know. Maybe it was the sexual part of the tentacle.
Oh, good point.
Well,
Good point.
Well, hold on. Let me make one thing clear. I don't actually like tentacle porn.
I think it's kind of ridiculous.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, but you watch it anyway, Dave?
Okay, I have a really dumb question. What the hell is tentacle porn? Or do I even want to know?
Octopus and vaginas.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay.
And sometimes not octopus, but alien creatures and, you know, anything with tentacles.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
yeah, and there is some.
Some weird stuff out there.
Oh,
Before.
I can just imagine. Oy.
I have actually seen part of a live action tentacle porn.
Live action?
Yep.
Okay. Rosemary, and what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I was thinking that there's something I haven't done yet. I'm not exactly putting it on my list of things to do tomorrow.
There was
I'm bored. There's something else to explore.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
There
one
was-
way of looking at it.
There was a picture that I posted on Facebook not long ago. I don't know who has seen it and who hasn't. I know Rosemary has not seen it. But, you know, since we're talking about Japan and tentacle porn, it was a picture of a girl, some Japanese schoolgirl, posed in front of a tank that contained an octopus, right?
Mm.
And it looks like she's doing the the pose with the shocker. Two in the pink, one in the stink. Anybody know what I'm talking about here? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
She's doing that with her hands. And in the tank, the octopus is just looking at her. And down at the bottom of it, it just says, soon.
Oh, okay, one of those memes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always blown away by the, you know, used panties vending machine, too. And,
Oh, yeah. I've seen
Yeah.
that.
I just got a comment from somebody. She said, tentacle porn is only censored if there's pubic hair involved.
There we go.
Yeah, forget those pubes. Can't corrupt
Yeah,
the
okay.
masses with the pubics.
Okay, but you think that would be the opposite? I don't know. I can't quite get into that mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
It's only hair.
Yeah, like, why would it make a difference? I don't quite get that, but, yeah.
Well, I mean, if anything, let's just perpetuate that the way we were born and the way we were just are is just wrong, and let's just cover it up and censor it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Scramble those pubes.
Scramble the pubes.
Pixelate me, baby.
Oh, yeah.
This show is going to result in some pretty hilarious phrases.
We can only hope. Oh, man.
Well, when you think about it, it's strange. You're getting a medical profession and a midwifery that goes back, goes back for generations. That's perfectly used to looking at women's vaginas, hair and all, to deliver babies.
Mm-hmm.
And yet somehow or another, the rest of the population considers it obscene.
Yeah.
Well, even in obviously, I don't have any first-hand experience, but reading about, deliveries of babies in the Western world in, the 1950s and things like that, women were completely shaved before their babies were born because the pubic hair was deemed unsanitary.
Well, and that does make sense.
You don't want to get it in the way, I guess.
How much did they have?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Dave had a picture of that not too long ago in his timeline.
Oh.
Wait. I had a picture of what?
Excessive hair. You remember?
Yeah, that was a little.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now he gets it.
One.
That was the one where I posted the picture of the landscaping crew in response.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I woke up at 3 o'clock one morning, and that was like the first thing I saw, and I'm like,
oh,
damn you, Dave!
Oh, back to bed.
That was horrific.
I think I had nightmares after that.
I'll show you the picture later. It's pretty horrific.
Post it up.
I don't know if I can.
It makes sense from a health point of view, I suppose, but women have been having babies without having their pubes shaved for a long time all over the place.
You know what? I wonder if maybe that came from, if maybe that was an extension of one of William Kellogg's ideas.
Oh.
He was the one who came up with the whole, circumcision thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that had something. Maybe that was kind of a follow-up in some way, shape, or form. I know that we're talking about. When I use that, it's probably a bad analogy to use because in the one sense we're talking about preventing masturbation, or so he thought. And
right.
Oh, right. When you Kellogg as in Kellogg's cornflakes personally with
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I had to think for a minute. Yep.
The guy with the enema obsession, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'd known that when I was a kid, we lived on Kellogg's cornflakes.
It's like, ew.
Well, it could have been him or Graham, because Graham took right after the Kellogg brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they were Australian. There was Australian variety. They'd been through customs and everything. They were probably decontaminated on the way through.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's an interesting point there, Dave. You might have something to that. Because he couldn't, what else is he going to do to women at that point? At least in Victorian society. That guy was a little messed up, though.
No, he wasn't a little messed up.
Okay, a lot. And I talked about this on the AOA show a bit, but like this whole obsession with religion and no masturbation is just a little ridiculous. Like, that causes so much harm to people,
Excuse me, I need to step away for a minute.
Uh-huh.
No, actually, I am going to step away for just a moment. When I come back, I'm actually going to turn my camera on because I've cleared out a spot for myself so it doesn't look like shit around here. So, give me just a couple minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay, go get another towel.
Put some pants on.
Yeah, she said put some pants on first, huh?
It's funny you mention that because all I'm wearing is one sock.
And it's on his hand.
And it's on his hand.
Well, that I hadn't thought.
All right, go get your towel.
Another
There he goes. Another sock. But yeah, I don't understand. Well, no, we talked about that in the last show, and the whole religious prohibition and masturbation, and it goes back to the, what was his name? I want to call him Odin, and it's not Odin, but the guy who spilled it on the ground. It's the same.
It was, yeah, Onan.
Onan, yes. I'm
That was
taking
where I
Odin.
suppose it came from, but of course it didn't. It was a misunderstanding of what that was all about.
Yeah. And I mean, so many people that have spent, years and years trying not to do that, and it's like the most normal, natural thing ever, and it's better for you. In fact, not long ago on my Facebook, I had a Muslim guy in private message who messaged me, and we had been talking about Islam and whatever, and all of a sudden he's just like, I need sex. I'm repressed because of Islam. I'm like, whoa, pardon? But eventually he just starts saying, well, tell us that we can't have sex until we get married, and we're not allowed to masturbate. And he was telling me, and after a while, I'm pretty sure he was legit, and he was saying, they always tell us that we're going to get cancer and we won't be able to have babies, and we won't be able to have normal sex when we do get married if we have.
That's what happens to them. We go blind, don't we?
Yes, and grow hairy palms. Yeah.
Blind and blind and hairy palms.
Oh, the hairy palm. Didn't know about that one.
Yeah, that's must be a North American one, but yes, if you do it too often, you grow hair on your palms.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I think they said that was a way people could tell that you'd been doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good
it was
hair on your knuckles was another one. I remember hearing.
Well, it doesn't seem to work very well in either country. There are not too many blind people in Australia, and not too many hairy-headed people here or in Canadian.
At least not on the palms, anyway.
Oh, sure, that's not right.
Yeah, I've seen some guys who could possibly do to shave their back, but not in the palms. I see Dave made it back.
I think that's one of the really sad consequences of the Abrahamic religions is the ban on masturbation.
Yeah, because how are you supposed to learn what you like and what turns you on and what's normal for you if you can't experiment with yourself?
There's that.
God will tell you.
Yeah, God will tell you.
But it's also a useful release that's not harming anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it's by the time you reach puberty, you need the chemical release part of it for normal functioning, which just isn't admitted.
Yeah.
It's a medical service, but it's...
See, now I'm thinking about normal versus abnormal here, and I could see a way where masturbation could cause someone or society a problem.
Do tell.
Well, it does if you're going to do it on the tram or something. I'm recommending that.
That's exactly my point.
Or, you're
like being in hospital with people with frontal lobe damage who can't control their urges, and they'll sit there and masturbate in front of anybody. Believe you me, it's not. You learn a lot.
That's what I have. Frontal lobe damage.
Oh, is that why you've got the camera on, Dave?
Well, if you're gonna
oh, you're good to tease, really you are.
Good to tease or good at tease? Yeah, but I mean, I felt bad for that guy, you know, because he's all being told that all these horrible things are going to happen to him if he tries master. And he was asking me, like, well, what do you think? And, you know, I'm telling him, well, this is what we learned, and it's normal, and it's good for you, and all of that. And I don't know. He keeps coming back and asking me more about it, so.
Well,
I think
here's the thing, though. It's good that he is talking to someone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Where is my camera button? There I am.
Ah, there he is.
Oh, hello.
It's Dave.
Hi.
Woohoo!
Oh, full frontal. Wonderful.
No, you are not getting the full Monty.
Dean, you had something to say there?
Well, I was just going to say, thinking more on a personal level, I know with somebody in my family where, as I said, they hide their sexual urges behind the religion, where it's almost that's actually become the religion, but it's just like, it's in a way it's really sad to see, because I think, you know, I mean, let's see, what is he, 63?
Oh boy.
I mean, so yeah, so I mean there's a, you know, a 10-year gap there in age, but when I realized it, it's just like, and I'll say in the last 20 years or so, it's just like I've watched, in a sense, almost, I don't know if a social decline is the right word, but how he interacts with people.
Right.
And in some sense, it's very, very scary.
How old is he?
I think 63.
Hmm.
And he's been doing this his entire life. Well, that I can remember back to when I was 10, so we're talking at least 40 years, if not longer.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's just, it's kind of bizarre, because none of my other family members are even remotely like that. So I don't know, and I think this is where the religion comes in as far as the manipulation and the control, but I also know the church he went to, so I know he didn't get it from that church specifically. And it's just, it's just really kind of bizarre. It's just, because he's got a very socially repressed idea of sex in general.
Sad.
Yeah.
And it just makes me wonder how many other people in the world are walking around like him.
Yeah.
Far too many.
It just...
Yeah.
See, now, I lost my virginity when I was, believe it or not, I lost my virginity when I was 12.
Wow.
And we were talking about this on
Good luck to you. I mean, you obviously don't need it.
We were talking about this. We were talking about this on the Atheists on Air broadcast last month, and I have never had any sort of repression about sexuality at all, and that entire concept is just so foreign to me.
Lucky you.
Yep. Well, and I was saying, you know, Cash asked me about that last week too, and I said, well, I got off really lucky with that, because I never had that issue either. I got out of religion early enough that it just was never a problem. And I said, in all honesty, I mean, when I was 16 and horny, I didn't give a shit. I was like, fuck Jesus, give me some. And you know, I just didn't care at that point. I guess the urge overcame the religion, I guess.
Yeah, but at the time, I was still technically a believer.
I was too. At
that point, I knew what the Bible said.
Yeah, I did too. At 16, I was at the height of my fundiness, and yet when it came to that, it was like Jesus went out the fucking window, man. I didn't care.
I think the only thing I cared about at 16 was playing hockey, so...
Oh, hell
I lived
no.
and breathed.
Yeah, well, the thing is
Yeah,
yeah.
That was sorry. Let me make a clarification here. That was not directed to anyone on the panel. That was directed to this damn cat.
cat.
Oh, the cat.
Well, if you noticed, I have one yowling over here a minute ago, too.
Yeah, mine's been trolling back and forth.
Yeah, I had to unlearn my religious.
There's Miss Joy. Hello, Joy. Say something so we can see her, Dave. Here, hang on.
She's not gonna say anything at all.
Oh, there she is. Yeah, mine keeps wandering back and forth.
and if I pet her, she'll bite me.
Mm-hmm.
That's because she knows you don't like her, Dave.
Well, I had a hangout with a friend of mine, not last night, but the night before, and I figured out, what she's doing when she gets up here and she leans on me like this.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to annoy me to get up so she can get the warm spot on the couch.
Well, yeah, that's what they do. See, I got mine heating pads, so they don't do that as badly. And I know you're not going to buy her heating pad.
No, I'm not going to buy her a heating pad. The house is warm enough without it.
Oh, shit.
But
yes.
one thing that I wanted to go back to, well, not that I wanted to go back to, but one thing that I wanted to talk about was, and this is primarily one of the reasons that I thought Rosemary would be a great guest, that lots of people have fantasies that I guess you could say border on the macabre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, perhaps macabre's not a great way to put it, but on the AOA broadcast, which was what prompted the content for tonight's show, we were talking about rape fantasies, and I don't have it in front of me, but I did read a response to something that someone had sent me, and this goes to the whole idea of role play.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue for me is consent.
Yes.
When I am with someone and she wants to get into a rape fantasy and role play, there is always that issue of consent. If I am not comfortable that she has given consent to the fantasy or to the role playing, then it's not going to happen.
On a BDSM website that I'm actually part of, you actually don't even find the term rape fantasy coming up a lot of the times. The term that's used is consensual non-consents, because that's exactly it. You have to make sure that everybody is on board with the fact that, yeah, we're playing, yeah, we're enjoying ourselves, but everybody needs to be on board and know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the way I approach it, and I'm glad you brought up that term. That's very interesting.
That's a good way of putting it.
Maybe I need to start referring to it that way, but I had never heard that way of putting it, so,
Yeah, consensual non-consent.
Right.
If you look at the nitty-gritty of so-called rape fantasies, they don't have all of the elements of them. They don't have all the elements of rape. They have some of them. So they don't have the complete degradation, they don't have the torture, they don't have the pain, they don't have the complete humiliation stuff, everything.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the complete loss of control where you can't get out of it, or the complete trauma. You don't come out of that traumatized at the end of it.
Well, and the way I look at it is it's kind of an illusion, because the roles that you think of aren't actually the roles that are being expressed. So the person who
that is very true.
The person who is quote, being raped is actually the one who's in control and who is able to stop all proceedings, at the drop of a hat. And it's the other person who seems like they're the dominant one who really is at the whim of the other person, because no matter what they want, if this is a healthy relationship, what they want stops the minute the other person changes their mind.
Well, and that goes beyond the consensual non-consent. That's just a dominant, submissive, functional relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
The submissive has all the control. They always have.
Absolutely. So what people perceive it to be is really an illusion, and it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, there's a big difference between role
they're only seeing what's
acting
on
and
the surface, and they're in position.
What was that, Dave?
I was agreeing with no one knows I'm a whore. That and with you that the sub is really the dom, and the dom is really the sub.
Exactly.
When it comes right down to it.
Exactly. And what you find in a lot of those situations is the person who is being, quote, submissive, they often will have a normal life where they need to be the one in control. They may have a lot of responsibility in their lives, and they may need to be on point all the time. And that fantasy gives them that feeling of letting go of it, but in reality, because that's who they are that person in control, they aren't actually ever giving that up.
I thought about that recently, too.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was so shocked when I found out when I found out that she was into the BDSM scene. I immediately thought she'd, be some PVC wearing dominatrix, having men falling at her feet. And when I found out that she was submissive, I was shocked. I thought, that doesn't seem to suit you.
Yeah,
because submissive.
Her other hobby is paintball, and she's very aggressive with it. Yeah,
she's a rough and tumble, assertive girl. But I remember once I was asking her, like, that doesn't seem like you. That doesn't make sense. I don't understand. And she said, this is the aspect in my life where I can turn that piece of myself off, and that's a big piece of herself. So
yes,
it was really good for her.
Well, you'd be absolutely surprised at who is involved in that. One of my colleagues got himself involved in a very nasty court case a couple of years ago, and his client had a personality disorder and got him involved in a court case he should never have been involved in. She was into BDSM in a bad way, and he was treating her, and this all got hauled up in court. And he went for some advice to some colleagues in the psychology department at the university that we were both at for a while, and it turned out that one of the psychology professors there was into it. And it was not at all a person that I would have thought would have been involved in it at all. So you just never know. But that person wanted their privacy and wouldn't turn up in court, which is another issue. But it's still not, you can't talk about it in public for that reason. So there was other issues there, and they refused to turn up in court because of that, because I reckon they'd be stigmatized. And this is psychology.
Well, and that's the thing, though.
Stigmatized.
Well, if you have a career where you are, if you have a lot of responsibility, and maybe you are in charge of a business or other people, for you to come out and say, yeah, but I like to get chained up to a cross and whipped on weekends, people are going to have an issue with seeing you as that authority figure in real life. So that's where that problem comes from, I think.
You know what? You just hit the nail on the head. And I'll speak about that in just a moment. But
okay.
First, when you said something about chained to a cross and whatever, I thought about something that somebody posted recently. A friend of mine
posted something on his wall, a quote from Jesus saying, "Hey guys, Judas is going to get me hammered and take me to see Nine Inch Nails."
Awesome.
That's a sick joke, but still.
We gotta have the Jesus joke in there, right?
I have seen Nine Inch Nails, but not while chained to a cross.
Well, it's
Well,
funny.
good.
It's funny you brought that up, Dave, because there is I won't call it a Gnostic teaching, but more esoteric teaching in regards to the crucifixion, that it was not so much the death, but that it was basically Christ getting off.
Oh,
It was actually it's more of a sexual innuendo.
Oh, the French do call it the Little Death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Passion of the Christ?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And that's what, and that yeah. There, I don't have it handy. If I known we were going to go this direction, I would have pulled it up. But there is a very I can't remember who it. It goes back quite a few years, but that has come up in some more of the mostly out there, for lack of a better word, interpretations and hermeneutics of the Passion of the Christ. That's what it is. It's sex. It has nothing to do with, dying for our sins, so to speak. But that's not that's actually one interpretation of that story.
I had not heard that.
Me neither.
Well,
Yeah. I'll have to try to find it.
I
I'll have to see if I can find.
I didn't mean to sidetrack us on Jesus, because sex is far more interesting than that. But
Yes.
the heretic woman, you had said something about people who are nervous about letting people know that they are subs, because they couldn't be trusted. And I mentioned IT policy girl earlier tonight. She is very high power in her company, very well respected and very well known. I think that if she had discovered that she was a sub earlier in her life, she could have incorporated it, but she only discovered it after she got into the position that she's in. And so what happens is she has a real, and I believe it to be a very genuine fear, that if she is found out, that her career could suffer.
Absolutely, yeah.
So with me, she knows that she's got kind of a safety net there. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And she can have that side of herself without having to worry that one of the vice presidents of the company is going to find out about her proclivities.
Well, part of the problem with that.
Go ahead, Beth.
Well, part of the problem with that is that when people find out that you're a sub, they have the misnomer that means that they can literally walk all over you, and it's very frustrating because they think it's a manipulation tactic. And for somebody like your friend being in the position she's in, it can have very detrimental effects. For me, I don't really care because I just blow people off anyway. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Think what you want, But yeah, there's kind of a dichotomy in your thought processes, depending on what your position in, as far as your social status or your work status goes. Where I work, it don't matter. Now, where IT girl works, it probably would matter, and it could, as far as a power struggle within the company and how she's treated, it could cause a problem.
Well, and it's interesting because I would, to me, I can't see why. For me, I can't see why a role that you take in a sexual encounter should be the same one that you would take anywhere else. I mean, you go through life with different roles. You go
but
through life
I think that has to do more with other people's perception
Oh,
of the
yes.
role that you're.
And that's exactly it, because I mean, I was in management in a company recently, and especially as a woman, you have to have that aggressiveness and be willing to stand up and say, no, you're going to do what the fuck I tell you because I told you to do it. And yet if they know that, you're going to get tied up in a corner, or you're going to get down and say, yes, master, they're going to look at you and say, yeah, fuck, I'm not listening to you. What, you think, I'm not going to let you do that because you're not like that. And so it's something that you would have to get, and this is why it's important to talk about this, I think, because if we help people to understand what the underlying roles are and what's really going on, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but there's a potential that people can understand that, no, actually the person who allows themselves that submissiveness outside the office is way the fuck more strong than you, who's sitting there and thinks that they're all that. And people
That's a good way of putting it. That's a very good way of putting it.
Thank you.
The key phrase is that it's a role.
Yes.
It's a role you elect to play at a particular time.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't one that you have all the time.
And it's not going to have the same effect, I think. So if you say, well, hey, I like to dress up as a French maid for my husband because, that's kinky, they're not going to look down at you the same way that you say, well, I like to get, tied up and put in a cage on weekends. It's a whole different kind of role.
You know what? You just brought up something in my mind, because the French maid, the entire costume, that role playing is a form of submission.
Yes.
When you think about it. So where is the disconnect between something like that and something like being tied up or handcuffed or anything else? Now, let me be very clear. When we're talking about BDSM, I do the BD part of it, but I don't do the SM part of it. My limit is handcuffs, and I make sure that the handcuffs that I have here have the quick release function.
Mm-hmm.
So if I suddenly have a heart attack and die on top of someone, she can get out of the damn handcuff without a key.
God, Dave.
But when we're talking about but when we're talking about this, there's a
safety valve.
There seems to be a separation between someone who is willing to be handcuffed and, let's call it, used. There's a disconnect between the perception of someone who is willing to do that and the perception who is willing to dress up as a French maid or a sexy nurse or a cheerleader or something like that. So where does that come from? Is it? I wonder if it comes from the idea that, well, the costumes are a visual piece, and the willingness to engage in handcuffs or whatever may be an emotional or an intellectual piece, and we can understand the visual much better than we can the intellectual.
Yeah, I think that speaks well to it, because if you're dressing up as a sexy nurse or as a maid or some shit like that, like the schoolgirl's another one, it is a visual thing more so. Like, my understanding is most people don't spend a whole lot of time, cleaning the house in the maid outfit, or you're not going to do a huge elaborate scene with that.
If you come to my house, you will.
Well, yes. That's you, Dave.
Well, I think too with the dressing up versus the use of handcuffs is that with the dressing up, like he says, it's a visual, but there's no physicality or material that is preventing or restricting movement. Where with the handcuffs, you are literally at the whim of your partner, obviously by consent, but being one who was physically restrained against her will, I still have the proclivity towards handcuffs, which I discovered quite late in life, which was a little odd. But I know with my partner, I figured that one out.
Never too late. Never too late.
Yeah, but for me, like, I know the first time we broached the subject, it being that I've had PTSD, it took a long time to get to that point of trust. Yes. And I think that's where it comes down. You cannot physicalize. Yep, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, you cannot physicalize trust. It's all up in the noggin. And
that's right.
That was precisely what I was saying on the AOA broadcast last Monday night. Yeah. It comes down to trust.
Yeah, and if you don't trust your partner, whether it's your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, it's never going to work. There's always going to be that fear factor in there that's going to take away from the experience.
Well, then you've got this. What's that? Well, just talking about trust, I just said that just segues so nicely into Polly.
Yeah, Polly has a lot to do with trust like that as well.
It's all to do with trust.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when you throw in the work dynamic, like for IT girl, it's all a power struggle. So more or less is that, I mean, she has to maintain that power over the, and I'm not saying power in a bad sense, but that authority, better word there. And there's no trust in there. That's just the way it has to be. There's no trust aspect in that.
You have to have the trust that the other person does not step over the line. You know where the line is, and it does not step over the line and abuse it.
Yeah, because I mean, you can have 20 safe words, but if you're not sure that they're going to listen to you when you give it, it's not worth shit.
Yeah, then it doesn't do anything to enhance the experience.
Then it's no longer role playing.
Yeah, then you lose that whole, and that's the thing. I mean, and in some ways, like in my case, for me, the whole experience of learning that trust, I think, was actually more of a turn on. And I know it's going to sound weird for me, because I was also to get into the psycho mumbo jumbo. That was more of a turn on for me to learn that I could actually do something like that.
For you, Beth, I think it might be an unlearning experience. We talked about that before. You had to unlearn something.
Yeah.
You've had traumatic experiences. You put yourself in a situation that was traumatic and made something different out of it. I think it's therapeutic for you.
Yeah, and that's and it's funny you say it that way, because going back to what Heretic was saying, as far as, I forgot exactly how you phrased it. I just lost my thought.
It's all right.
That's mine. That's what I was saying. I'm an old age.
I have CRS.
I can't remember shit.
I just have senior moments.
I'm not too far behind on that.
Up until yesterday, I had blonde moments all the time.
Yeah, we turned her.
Oh.
She was a blonde till yesterday. I fixed it.
So you took away her soul?
Yes. Yes, I did.
She had one?
If I don't have one, she can't have one either.
I'm starting to collect my freckles now.
What's that?
I'm starting to collect my freckles now. 1 freckle for each soul.
There we go. Yeah, that's what, we get the freckles. Those are other people's souls.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
Ah, shit, man.
Well, well, folks, we are getting to the end of the evening already, believe it or not.
Oh, good. That means I get to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no over here is eating already. Yeah.
Your favorite thing in the whole wide world.
Oh, kimchi. Ugh, gross.
Yum.
Yeah. I have a whole separate refrigerator in the house because of that shit.
Well, you know what you do on refrigerator? Oh, no, it's freezers.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, no, that's in the basement, but.
Oh, the boat, right.
Yeah,
Basement.
well, no, the ice cream parlor is long since closed. So, folks, I just want to give everybody an opportunity if there's anything you want to plug, anything you want to, closing comments or anything like that. So, anybody wants to jump in, go ahead. Don't all talk at once.
There are a couple of things I want to go ahead and say.
Yep.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to co-host tonight. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
I want to give a shout out to our good friend Skeptic Cash Feuerstein.
Yes.
Without whom this show would not be possible. And it is because of him and people like him that atheism and secularism is really gaining a foothold in North America right now.
Yes.
Cash, buddy, we love you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And Rosemary, I really thank you for agreeing to come on with us tonight and providing a professional perspective on this because, as you can see, the other three of us can't really do that.
We can pretend.
I also want to personally thank you. You have taught me some things in the past couple of years that I really appreciate, and I have come to kind of double check your Facebook page from time to time if there's a question that I need answered, because it may not be an answer to my question, but it might just be something else that you say that leads me down the path for the answer. So thank you for that.
It's high praise, Dave. Thank you.
And that's about all I have.
Okay.
This is more on a personal note, but I know many of the people that are listening, and you guys obviously. I want to thank everyone personally from the bottom of my heart for all your kind words and support for the last week. And for those that don't know, my mother passed last Wednesday. She was 93, and I did get home in time to say goodbye. So, but I appreciate everybody's thoughts and kind words. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, you deserve it, for sure. Excellent. So, thank you, all of you. Rosemary, wonderful to meet you.
Yes.
We had a great time. And Dave, thank you for hanging out, as usual. And turning the camera on for once, hey.
And Dave, you have a beautiful smile, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I had to see you posted that one picture, and I was like, "Damn, he's got a nice smile."
He does.
I've been trying to tell him that.
And Beth, thank you for joining us, and our sincere condolences on your loss. And I'm very happy that you got to get there in time, and that's really important for sure. And thank you to my lovely friend Noe here for hanging out with us as well. And
what's your lovely friend's name?
No one knows I'm a whore.
Oh.
Yes, that yeah.
Blonde, right? Soulless, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Something like that.
something like that.
I just have fun.
She does. She does. And I, too, very much would like to thank Cash for all of his help and support. Like Dave said, we wouldn't be here without you. You're one of the reasons why we do what we do. You're an inspiration, and we are so glad to have you as our friend, and we love you. So, yeah. So, if anybody has anything else? No?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to our viewers. We're glad that you stuck it out with us and all of the raunchiness and hilarity that ensued. And we hope that you maybe learned something. We learned a few things. And come and join us next time when we go beyond the trailer park. Have yourself a wonderful evening.